So let's get into it. First, I want to say that for the light attack and heavy attack, I'm not going to go in depth on these because these are not going to give you any significant range damage. Even the combos where you have to hold triangle or multi-tap triangle to use your demolition arrow. Honestly, if you still want to use these though while you're doing your range build, go for it, but it's more of finesse and it's not going to hit as hard as actually aiming down with L2 and firing with R2. So moving into the first stuff that you'll actually need to pay attention for is the range tree. So what's actually going to help you the most here is the archer's mark, especially if you're a fan of the scatter shot. That is probably my favorite mode that you can be in out of the three, because when you're faced with an adaptoid rushing you or in your face, you don't have to feel like you need to blink away or dodge out of it. Honestly, you can just get 3 marks and then let it go. Honestly, if you get 3 or 4 marks on one target, it's probably a one-shot or it's going to stun them and do heavy damage. And then when you get the stopping power upgrade, you're going to be able to knock them back. And I have a video that I just put up. It's my first tips and trick for Kate Bishop with the scatter shot on a flaming adaptoid, and he absolutely couldn't do anything. It was insane. Definitely check that video out. Next is perfect draw. This is going to give you a lot of impact, extra damage. You definitely want to be charging up arrows as much as possible to maximize damage on these ranged builds. Rapidly tapping with the razor arrow is pretty good. I don't think you necessarily need to full charge for everything, because enemies like the one you can see in the little display for the move, you can tag him up with just tapping R2 with the combo and it'll shred him just fine. The disruptor arrow is definitely a solid one as well. That mark is definitely going to help you get out some extra damage for sure. I don't know if it's necessarily as good as the archer's mark, but definitely grab it for extra damage output, and breaking that block is going to help you out with the riot shield guys. Deal with riot shield people, I prefer to go with the scatter. I wouldn't use the razor arrow, because you're still going to be able to stun lock them thanks to the stopping power, and with the archer's mark, the arrows are going to hit him anyway, even if he has the shield up. So it's pretty broken right now at this point, honestly. Trick shot is crazy. You're able to hit more than one target with one shot. That's always useful, especially whenever you start to get into adding proficiency into your build, because it's going to control how often you crit. And I think I'm going to get my relics, or sorry, the ISOs, as proficiency, because the straight ranged is going to be dope for sure. I'm definitely going to grab those and compare and contrast them, but having some crit against these adds is just so worth it on this character. Explosive arrows by far are my least favorite. I definitely think they're useful, but it doesn't seem like you're able to crit with them, and that makes sense. It's an explosion. However, the second upgrade, Blast Zone, is super good, especially when I get later on into the video when you combo it with your Singularity from your Assault ability. So the main use for blast arrows is for clustered up enemies. I don't think it's necessary to do it for one. If you're looking for insane damage on one enemy, you're either going to or use your scatter, for sure. And then with this, you can have an extra radius of damage for your arrows, but by far, when you're going to shoot these, you typically want to full charge it and get that blast zone off, because you're still going to hit a ridiculous amount of people, and it's going to break the block. Moving into the intrinsic ability, a lot of these will not see me use as I start to grind out gear for her. I'm going to make her my second character so that I can actually get through the heroic hive gauntlets a lot better. You won't need a lot of these because they're not scaled off of ranged at all. Trying to see which ones you'll actually be able to benefit from. The main ones I rushed are going to be these on the side because they're actually affecting your bar. And the reason behind it is the other ones are scaled off of melee and probably a little bit of a crossover with Valor because you're using the quantum energy. None of these are going to ever scale off of range, so definitely rush these on the side to help you manage your intrinsic bar first. I think I find that useful with most characters to try to get the intrinsic upgrades as fast as possible so that it doesn't drain as fast, or so you don't overuse, or so if you're going to get extra damage whenever you're overcharged, you end up getting that output a lot faster. And to support heroic abilities, I chose Afterglow over the other two because Afterglow is going to help you for when you take dots from Gamma or perhaps Fire, maybe even Ice. So I'd like to have some extra healing because as you've seen in my previous videos, I do glass cannon builds. So if you don't have any sort of regeneration, it's going to be rough for you. So I definitely say Afterglow is better than the Cover Fire as well, because Cover Fire, it's only going to add 3 extra shots, and since you're not rushing Valor for your heroic rating, it's not going to do a lot of damage. You barely notice it. After Image, definitely pick that up. Can get you out of tight spots. For Light Show, you want that 10 extra seconds. And for the self-destruct, this is super crucial. I'll probably do a brief tips and tricks for this as well. But there's a sick combo where if you self-destruct your decoy into your singularity, it'll add for a lot of burst damage even if you are not rushing heroic rating. And that's pretty solid because it's just a lot of utility. So you would decoy first, and then R1 to shoot your singularity onto your decoy, then hold L1 to blow up the decoy. For the last ability, you're going to grab Healing Light, so your decoy will drop heal packs for you. That's super useful, especially because they're all going to be running at your decoy, ignoring you, so you should be able to rip off some good damage in time to pick up a lot of those packs, and you want to be able to support your team as well. Here it is on your assault ability. As you can see, all the enemies gravitate around it. That's going to be good for peeling enemies off you a lot faster than your decoy will. I still say for the most damage output possible, shoot your decoy first, then singularity. For the next perk that you can choose between, honestly, you can go for Void Walker if you want to shoot 2 of them. I want to go Gravity Crush, however, because I'm looking for the most damage possible whenever I do that combo I was just discussing. So this will give you 15 extra damage on that. And then definitely grab Shadow Jacket and Warp Drive. When you go through your ultimate ability, since you're going ranged, if you're planning on going ranged, you definitely want Quantum Storm. The other two do not scale off of range damage at all. So if you're picking these up, you're not going to see any sort of high damage output when you're leveling up precision. So now it says the damage is low, but don't let that discourage you from grabbing this, because when you start off with her, you can see that you rip off some pretty insane damage with your semi-arrows without this automatic upgrade. However, when you activate your Stone of Lethal and you start consecutively hitting these, the quantum detonation goes off. And your Stone of Lethal is going to increase that quantum detonation. So landing consecutive arrows is going to automatically make the quantum detonation go off. And it causes crowd control to happen to enemies nearby. It's not showing that in here in the little video right there. But when you're actually fighting clusters of enemies, you'll find that it'll stagger multiple people, and it's very good for dueling giant exos and adaptoids. Leading into that same point, get Quantum Magnifier to boost that detonation and the shots coming out. You definitely want to pick up all of these in the middle. You're going to get 10 more seconds. This one you're not going to benefit from. It's just melee damage. And this one you will benefit from, because that energy field is going to absorb some damage. With you being glass cannon, you probably won't notice it as much as some people who actually opt out for some resilience and resolve, but it doesn't hurt to grab anyway. The melee tree, this one is not going to help you too much. Nothing too important here. The demolition charge arrows are kind of worth it, but at the same time, these are for your whole triangle combos. So again, they're not going to scale that high. The main important one here is combat therapy. I choose this one because I want more sustain. So if I see a takedown and I'm low HP, I'm going to 100% go for it, because you're immune to damage when you're doing a takedown, and you'll instantly get healed afterwards. So I choose heavy draw whenever I'm for the mastery tree for ranged, because of the 10% additional damage. It's 100% worth it. Going to go for sure shot next, because of, again, the fully charged damage increase by 5% for each marked target, and that will sync up with the archer's mark that I showed you on the primary tree. That is why you'll see all that insane crit damage whenever you do hit that shot. So 100% go for sure shot as soon as possible. And then this one, I think, is more of a flavoring thing than other people, but I personally have seen a lot of damage output from Archer's Prowess. You get 2 additional arrows onto your scatter shot, which means 2 additional headshots if you shotgun it in somebody's face, or if you mark the person's head and you fire it off. So I personally choose Archer's. You could go for Scorching Surprise. Again, detonation arrows do not crit, so to do the most damage out of these 3, you're going to be looking at the Archer's Prowess for sure. And with the intrinsic ability, I chose to grab the first perk for each, and each one increases the total amount that you can have. And the reason why I did that is because the way she works is similar to Widow. When you're on a roll and you keep dealing damage and you're not taking any, your damage goes up. And before that begins to decrease, I want it to last as long as possible, especially if there's enemies that I want to get rid of super quick. Adept Adaptoids, Dreadbots, and so on. And then for the intrinsic overcharge, I chose to get Overcharge Surge because Kate has a lot of burst damage. She can drop people very fast. So I've definitely found my ultimate extending very long from those fully automatic shots, and since it AoEs against everybody, it's adding seconds to the counter. Overcharge Precision Boost is very good because you're getting 5% to your ranged criticals. This is directly affecting the range build. Arguably the 2 best things in the mastery for you to grab right away. And this one is flat damage for 10% while you're overcharged. So 100% get Precision Overcharge and Overcharge Precision Boost. That was a pretty quick view of what I'll be doing, but again, I'll explain this in the streams and as I move forward. But this is how we'll be running Kate Bishop into the end game. I've seen some crazy damage already. I'm super excited to put up videos of how it actually looks in gameplay to further, if there's anybody still on the fence of how good this actually is, because I want to show you in stats. I look forward to seeing her range rating at 3K and seeing what numbers come out. But if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe for more. Especially comment if there's anything you have questions on, if there's anything you disagree with, or if you feel like there's something I didn't elaborate on. But that's it, guys. I'll see you in the next one.